everyone! Welcome back to the stream. We are back from a very brief break here with me, Rissa, and I'm joined here by Raze. Raze and I have been TOing for most of the day, so this is almost like a nice break to just kind of sit down and chill. How are you doing, Raze?
I'm doing good. Like you said, this is the break where no one can interrupt us, and we can just talk about what's in front of us. And
Yeah.
I don't have to yell. I've been calling for matches all day, so I apologize if my voice is a little rough, but I won't have to yell now unless it's absolutely necessary, which is fantastic.
Yeah, unless it's like something super hype.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Raze has been having to like literally yelling all day, just yelling, having to yell out matches that are happening for everyone. So this is a nice, calm moment. But unless there's hype games, of course. So
Which we're hoping for.
I
We're
know.
hoping for some amazing games.
Yeah. So we're going to be leading in. Well, the teams are on stage. They're getting into the lobby right now. We have Nonfiction versus Bai that we're going to be watching. Two teams that I got to watch a little bit, but I didn't really get to like hyper focus in on them as players today yet. So I'm excited to sit down and actually watch them get to play this time.
Yeah. So to talk about these teams a little bit, Nonfiction, their one and only pop gun on it, along with Chino, Pain, and Smash. So they definitely have the chance to do some take some good games. Based on the weapons they've submitted, we're probably going to see a Hydra from Pop Gun, which I'm really excited
I didn't
for.
even think of that.
Dude, I really like Hydra. I think Hydra's a lot of fun because it can lead to a lot of interesting situations in terms of game states.
Yeah.
Where Hydra, if it's in a really good position, can and will just 1v4.
Uh-huh.
Because you have to put so many resources into displacing the Hydra. If you don't actually check that box off, then you're going to have a really tough time.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. And Pop Gun 2, especially as a Hydra player, plays it really well. And whenever I played against him myself, it's always like, oh my gosh. Because you don't really see Hydras, so you're like, I can take it. And then you're like, nope, never mind. Because he's pretty good with that Hydra. And then another Hydra player I'm thinking of is Devi. Both very good with the Hydra. And love to see the Hydra, what's that word? The Hydra.
Splatling?
No, the Hydra like... representation. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. It took a second, but we got there, so it's fine. And then the other team, Bai, names like Force, Crimson Shadows, Imaginary, Jade, and Nox. So there's a Bloblobber on Force.
Ooh.
That could be interesting.
That might be the piece needed to move the Hydra around, because the Blob has that distance where they can sit back a little bit further and maybe kind of poke at the Hydra. But, I mean, the Hydra, of course, has range too, so it's like, just depends. But there's definitely potential there.
Absolutely, especially if it's like a Blob Deco. That Suction Rush could be a really big challenge for the Hydra because you can't deal with a Suction Bomb as a Hydra. You have to run away and give up that space. Kind of the same with a Cloud. So the Bloblobber is in a good position to deal with that Hydra, so that's kind of something I'm going to keep my eye on with how Pop Gun's doing compared to how the Bloblobber is dealing with it, or even how Bai is answering the Hydra to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I was looking at the Team Bai, which we were just talking about a little bit. Crimson Shadows has quite the weapon selection. They go from Splat Charger to Soda Slosher to Jet Squelcher to Splash-O-Matic. So that's always exciting, if a player is able to swap around weapons like that. And it's always like, okay, what are they going to do? What's going to be their counter to this other team and what they end up picking up?
And flexibility, when you play against flexibility, that is terrifying as a competitor because everything can get turned on its head in less than a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that flexibility is a really, really powerful tool, and I hope we'll get to see it to its fullest extent here on stream.
That's a good point. Thinking about how, okay, the team thinks they got, the other team versus the team that has the flexible player thinks they have it like honed in, okay, we got this. And then all of a sudden there's a huge weapon switch up, and you have to totally rethink your strategy. That makes it exciting because it can easily turn, like maybe a set, just totally flip the set and have the other team win it just like that.
Yeah, it can just completely change momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely something that we should look forward to.
Yeah.
But speaking of looking forward, I think our first game is almost ready for us.
I think
'Cause I just heard the
heard
lobby music.
I heard the noise. I hear the game.
So our first map is going to be Rainmaker on Sturgeon Shipyard. Now, here in a second, we'll get to take a look at these compositions and get to have some real fun.
Okay, so looking at the teams here, Popgun actually playing the custom Jet Squelcher. Was not expecting that. On the other side, I see 2 K-shots, so really interesting weapons coming out here. I wasn't expecting this.
So Bai definitely expecting the Hydra Splatling, choosing to play with double missile, armor, and storm. So Popgun, I think, is ahead of the curve here, playing that Jet Squelcher, something that is more mobile and has a better time dealing with these missiles. But they can never get missiles if they're not up to use them. Nonfiction having a fantastic start in that first fight.
Yeah, what a start here. Nonfiction grabbing the Rainmaker and getting the points to 68. Crimson, though, jumping on the Rainmaker and getting the splat on the person leading the Rainmaker. Now the Rainmaker carrier themselves has to back up all the way to mid. So essentially, the game is pretty much back where it started.
Yeah, I really wanted to see Nonfiction just say, you know what, you have a lot of people top left. Let's just go sponge, let's get some points, and then reset. But unfortunately, they chose not to do that. And now we're seeing Bai do exactly what I just said and just trying to go for points.
Yeah, I love Crimson there. You know, they didn't necessarily get the lead off of that, but they did exactly what you're talking about. Okay, there's this point where you just have to take a switch and turn it on and just run with the Rainmaker. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, so now Nonfiction has some solid map control. They have Suction Rush, which is going to be fantastic for pushing, and an armor. So once these specials come out, this push is going to swing into full gear.
Popgun actually being the one carrying the Rainmaker, so not able to utilize that Stingray for that push, but Popgun there doing their best to push up and get points with the Rainmaker. And I love this control that Nonfiction has right now. Pain actually grabbing the Rainmaker to continue this push. The more that Nonfiction has the Rainmaker, the harder it's going to be for Bai to get to the Rainmaker. So Pain is really just kind of stalling it here the best that they can. And Popgun is finally there to be with them. It looks like they're kind of just stalling this out. And just kind of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, so you don't see this right side push very often, and I really, really like it because in that situation, a long, drawn-out push will favor a team like Nonfiction, where if you let them get more specials, which they absolutely can, they will just blow through your defense. So really good job by Bai not getting just completely blown away by the specials of Nonfiction.
Now Nito here going to push up, try and push up to this left area. Unfortunately, as Nito actually gets, this is a really good position to have, but unfortunately, the rest of their teammates do go down. A really, really smart jump back from Nito. I really like that. So Nito jumping back to regroup with their teammates. Now Nonfiction is once again in control of the Rainmaker. They do go down, but they just continue to keep their Rainmaker in their control.
Yeah, Nonfiction there had a really good opportunity to take it top left and blitz, but unfortunately it didn't look like the communication structure was there, so they go down in mid by someone running up the ramp, and now we're back into neutral with Nonfiction on the back foot.
Nonfiction here regrouping. You can see Popgun actually staying back because if you notice, he does have that Stingray at the ready. It's like he heard me. Popgun popping that Stingray and actually getting a pick on Nito with that. So there's 3 down right now on the side of Bai. It was just Crimson, I believe, up. Crimson having to back up and smash, grabbing this Rainmaker. Gonna immediately take it to this left side. You can see maybe they were waiting for armor. It looks like maybe they were, but they're just kind of stuck in this top left area now.
That's a fantastic double. That just opened up the entire push. I was going to suggest that they back off on this, but when you get a double like that, you always want to keep going.
Yeah, that is that disadvantage state. The other team in that moment was definitely in a big disadvantage with 2 of their members down. Unfortunately, though, for Nonfiction, the Rainmaker was stopped there. And if you look at the scores right now, I mean, it's 56-70. It's really, really close. So we still have about a minute of this match left. Anything could really happen here.
Yeah, there's absolutely still time for both teams to break away. That being said, Nonfiction going 2 down with Bai in possession of the Rainmaker. Popgun comes in really clutch, though, with that Stingray to shut it down really early. He gets 2 with the Rainmaker. He gets 2 Rainmaker carriers and a single Stingray. I don't know what else you can ask for from an anchor.
Yeah, that was beautiful, especially right in the middle of a really detrimental Rainmaker push. So that was beautiful from Popgun, and that's exactly what they needed. Popgun here staying back, being that anchor player, and just kind of making sure that no one can rush the Rainmaker from the other team. We can see Chino here grabbing the Rainmaker and just getting it out of that spawn. That was a really dangerous position for them to have the Rainmaker in case anyone came up and grabbed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're sitting in neutral. I think these missiles actually help Nonfiction more than they help Bai, because right now this Rainmaker has to push. We have to move forward, and these missiles are actually inching our Rainmaker carrier forward. So while it seems like missiles are a really good thing to use here, when you have to inch forward, they're not going to do anything. That being said, Rainmaker does go down.
Rainmaker going down. You can see Payne there trying to pop the Rainmaker. Unfortunately, there was only one member left of nonfiction, so they weren't able to get a final strong push there to get the lead. So Bai actually right there kind of in the last minute of that set being able to take the lead and taking game one.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, Popgun was a commanding presence on the anchor, and even Payne was putting up great numbers. So this is definitely a neck-and-neck set, and I'm really interested to see how the next map goes, especially because it's going off of Rainmaker. And we all know that Rainmaker can be really, really fluid. But I personally, going into this next map, which is Zones on Reef, I definitely think Nonfiction has a really good shot, specifically because they had such good control for a majority of that game.
I know, I didn't even think about it that way. If they constantly had the map control, they were keeping presence in mid just constantly with their paint. And I think that in terms of if we move over to splat zones, that's what you really want, is that mid control, that paint control, because you are controlling the zone with your paint. So that actually, I didn't think of that. That could play out perfectly for them.
Also, the maps are on screen. I made a mistake. I read the wrong line. It's Clamps Piranha.
Oh.
I still think I had a good point. Nonfiction had a lot of control in mid. The big problem is that they weren't pushing with it. So in Clams, a much more fluid mode, they don't necessarily need to be as focused on the Rainmaker, so they can be a little more fluid in their movements, and I think that will probably help them.
Yeah. And it's making me wonder, too, is Popgun going to come out with that Hydra we were hinting at? Or, you know, this is also, Piranha Pit is also good for the Jet Squelcher, too, so I could see that coming back also.
Yeah. I think we're probably going to see a custom jet, simply because if you didn't know about Nonfiction, Popgun was the last-minute addition to this team originally. Because closing in on the registration deadline, Nonfiction still needed a fourth player, and Popgun stepped in. So it says he plays Hydra, but the chances of seeing that Hydra come out, I think, are mild.
Yeah, I'm sure that Popgun is trying to fill a role more of a weapon role, more of what this team is used to playing with. So I could see what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, he was playing extremely well in the Jet Squelcher. So Popgun never really does disappoint, does he?
He doesn't. In terms of gameplay, in terms of commentating, in terms of everything Popgun does. Yes.
So talking about this match. Popgun Hydra. Did I caster curse it? Is that what that is? Like, it comes out, and it's still a good pick. I can't wait to see it. If he positions really well with it, I think he'll take over this game.
Right now, there's 2 down on each side. Payne actually already making a power climb and able to push up and score. It looks like Nito finally saw that Payne was there and ran back to get Payne, so really good. Nonfiction getting their points down to 68, so definitely we still have 4 minutes left of this match. Anything can happen as Nonfiction is trying to regroup and come back from their spawn.
So one thing I will say about these compositions is right now, in this game state, I'm favoring Nonfiction because Nonfiction has the composition that can just sit there and do nothing and win because the ball is in Bai's court. That Bai needs to do something into a composition that they really don't want to do anything into. Case in point, that Flingza from Smash just coming out of nowhere and just absolutely annihilating that push with a fantastic double. Now they flip the game on its head, and if you're Bai, the weapons that you're playing are super, super aggressive, but you're just getting decimated. So if you're Bai, how do you come back from this?
I know, essentially getting completely wiped, and then there are claims continuing to score in right now from Nonfiction. Popgun there on the Hydra was taking a really aggressive position, but was finally called out. So that was a great push, though, from Nonfiction, getting 3 power clams in. I think 2 power clams in. I mean, that's a great way to poke at your enemy and have them need to match that score.
That's a fantastic early game. We're less than 2 minutes into the game, and we've already got someone down at 30, and Nonfiction is going again. The Flingza's missiles, they've got 4. They've got 4 missiles. How do you play against that? And then Payne just getting what is probably a fantastic double kill. Like, if you're Nonfiction, how do you stop this pressure? You have to just stop and get specials and try to get turf and just let Nonfiction simmer for a bit. Because if you just keep letting the player, Payne, I think, from Nonfiction, just continue to get pick after pick after pick,
Mm-hmm.
then you're never going to find your footing. You're never going to be able to come back into this game.
And we were talking about, too, how well Nonfiction had map control in that first game and had mid control, and I'm seeing a lot of that in this round, too. They're continuing to keep mid paint control, and that's making it really difficult for Bai to even, try and get into mid.
Fantastic defense. Like, again, I think Bai is just, they need to just slow down a little bit. They need to take a deep breath and realize they still have 2 minutes left in this game. They can absolutely still pull this back, but they need to just chill out for a second. They need to just tick the boxes off. Do we have turf control? Do we have specials? Do we have clans? If you tick those 3 boxes, I think Bai, can absolutely get a good push going. And Bai, when they're pushing, really scares me, because all of their weapons are made for pushing. Kensa 52, K-Shot, Tri-Slosher. It's terrifying if they get you out of position.
Yeah, and that really showed through almost from that first round. We saw them too. And once they got their footing, I mean, they were just super aggressive and got their lead just like that. And once that switch clicked on, that really happened for them. So this match, we have about a minute left. Popgun actually going to go ahead and score a power clam, but with 3 members of Nonfiction down, they weren't able to really follow up with that. Nito here trying to finally get into mid and start painting, and this might be the moment for Bai to actually start painting and get their specials and start trying to get a push in.
Yeah, absolutely. If Bai doesn't get any specials, which it looks like they're building right now, they have missiles, they almost have Booyah, and they almost have armor. This push is still very doable, but not if Pain dives into the back line and gets a double. Like, how can you get away with that?
I know, I just watched Payne on the top of the screen just dive and get those picks. Now, just 5 points for Nonfiction to be able to win this match. I don't know if anyone would be able to get over there with any clam smash there on the Flingza, trying to get over there as best as they can. They tried so hard to get that one clam in, but unfortunately they were called out. So with 20 seconds of this match, we see Bai getting a power clam at the ready, but with one of their members down, I don't know if they'll be able to get in a position to get a push going here.
Yeah, I doubt it, especially with these E-mines going down on Popgun's part. Like, that slows a push down to such a degree, because once a mine is placed on the ground, it is going to explode, whether that's via self-detonation by placing a 3rd ink mine or someone walking over it. So if Bai doesn't paint these mines out, then they're going to get so much information and put so much turf down for Nonfiction that this push could get squandered.
Okay, Bai here. We are in overtime. Bai scored a clam in, and they're continuing to score clams in. Crimson under the basket, trying to do everything they can to stay alive, but unfortunately was kind of sandwiched there. So they got their score all the way down to 47. I don't know if anyone else is going to be able to get over there. No, Nox there trying really, really hard to kind of sneak over there and get to the basket. But unfortunately for Bai, they were not able to get the lead there. So now that actually ties up the score to 1-1.
Yeah. So someone to talk about here on Nonfiction. I know we've been talking a lot about Popgun, but Pain is contributing to this turf control immensely. Like, the Flingza Neo Splash combo is just so good for turfing. Like, that's why they have so much control. They have the 2 painting weapons to put turf down, and then they have 2 really good weapons at enforcing it. Mm-hmm. And how do you compete with that? It just gets really challenging.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I know both of those weapons paint really well, and then like the Flingza is going to be constantly painting for missiles, so it's just kind of a thing you have to figure out, what do we do to counter that? And in that match in particular, it was really showing through. They were just constantly able to, even if they had maybe 2 or 3 members down, they had that mid control, and so they were able to just immediately drop into mid and just continue going and keep their pressure going.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at this map list, Splat Zones, Mako, and Tower Control Starfish coming up, I think these maps favor Nonfiction. Unless Bai can figure out what was shutting them down, I think this set is definitely leaning in favor of Nonfiction.
Ooh, and then especially if if we see that same comp from them like we got to see just now, I mean, I could totally see those comps playing out really well. For the next win, we go into Splat Zones on Macomar. I might agree with you there, Raze. I can see that really favoring their weapons.
Yeah, like, Nonfiction are just dealing with the aggression of Bai so well. Like, Bai tries to take an inch, they don't get it. They don't get anything. against nonfiction. But when nonfiction goes for things, they have range, they can slow push, they can walk forward, they can tiptoe forward and be very careful. And with that careful play, they're getting pick after pick after pick after pick, inching that line forward over time until the game's over. And that's how nonfiction is winning these games.
It's really working really, really well for them. And I think they know that too. They like recognize that. And the thing about that is they're not like sitting back. They're taking advantage of that and just constantly recognizing that they have that advantage state and they're pushing past it to just keep the pressure going.
Absolutely. So again, relatively similar compositions coming out from both teams. Something to note is both teams have Suction Rush, but Pain has a much more aggressive build, and the Neo Splash of Bai has a much more passive or special focused one. So it's going to be possible for us to see a bunch of Suction Rushes come out from Bai. But again, if we can never get the mid presence to actually use it safely, then what's the point in having it?
I love that Popgun and Chino and Pain all rush this right stack together, and just if you're seeing, Pain rushing at you, but then a Hydra's behind you, that's a really scary thought. So that was immediately a really good, taking of mid in that right stack.
So both Suction Rushes getting used here. That's kind of the point, is with Pain's more aggressive build, if Pain can just go in like he is, putting up a fantastic number of frags and holding this zone, then the more special focused build of the Bai Splash doesn't really do anything. So if I'm Bai, how am I getting into this map? With missiles and armor? Maybe, but I need to hold this zone for such a long amount of time. I have to play the rest of this game flawlessly.
They really do, and finally, looks like they're getting the moment that they needed. They got 3 down on the side of nonfiction, and by capping that zone, they have no penalty points right now. So finally, with the other team getting their score all the way down to 9, they're sitting in a good position right now.
Yeah, I think those missiles were a little early from Jade, I'm going to be honest, because we didn't have the position to move up and take actual space with them. So these specials coming out from Bai, I'm worried that nonfiction is just banking specials, and now they're going to explode forward on zone. And we're going to see another situation where nonfiction is just going to sit on that zone, and Bai is going to completely get removed from the game.
Yeah, Bai having to, Jade, we got to see that perspective. Jade having to jump out as they were the last member of their team up. So like you were saying, Ray's nonfiction here taking control of mid. Popgun on this Hydra on the right stack. Just absolutely I love that he's just zoning out all these areas ahead of him, so that way the other team can't really push up. You can see the other team going to use their armor. They do have that bomb rush at the ready too. They have a second armor also. They did use it, but unfortunately 2 members going to go down on the side of Bai Popgun's Hydra.
Popgun's positioning was so good. He's like, all right, they're applying some pressure. Let me back up, put some ink mines down to slow their approach, and then Bai just walked down the middle of the map. And if you're a Hydra, that's just exactly what you want to see. That's your dream scenario, where you could just sit in a single position and just move your controller to the left and right and watch 4 people get mowed down. And that's exactly what we just saw from Popgun's perspective, and it was kind of beautiful.
Yeah, I love that we got to see that from Popgun's perspective too, because that was like a really clutch play, and it would have been kind of tragic if we didn't get to see that perspective. I loved seeing that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, if I'm Bai, how do I deal with Popgun? I think it's the question we need to work on answering right now. And I think that answer is probably more missiles.
Okay, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it's a kind of lame answer. I know. I don't really have a strat to pull out for generic teams, but that's the best thing for dealing with Popgun's Hydra.
Yeah.
Although this being a tower control map, you're not even sure if he is going to play Hydra.
Yeah.
Because he can whip out a custom jet squelcher like he did at map 1, and your double missile strat could be completely useless.
Yeah.
So by flexing to that custom jet match 1, now he's put his opponents in a really, really awkward position where we need to counterpick the Hydra if it comes out, or we can try to commit to our strat and play around something that we know a little better of the custom jet. So, like, what their options in none of them are good. Like, I hate to say it, but I don't know what the play is here.
I don't know either. I mean, and this is, we were actually talking about this when a player is a little bit flexible with their weapons that they play. You know, your team can think they're really comfortable again. They've finally cracked the code on playing you if you play this certain weapon. And then all of a sudden they'll switch up the weapon and you have to totally rethink your strategy. So once we go into the match here shortly, we'll get to see what that might be. And I honestly, I thought the same thing I thought. What do you do to deal with the Hydra? I was like, more missiles.
Yeah. And again, it's a lame answer, but it's the easiest to pull out on the fly.
Yeah.
So let's see. No double missile from the side of Bai. However, they do have an inkjet, and an inkjet is another, an armored inkjet is also another really good response to a Hydra. That being said, the Hydra is going to do more on this map than just be an annoyance, because it makes this first checkpoint for Bai super, super difficult, because if the Hydra positions top right, then they're basically impossible to move for Bai's comp, except for missiles and except for inkjet.
Okay, Pain just instantly rushing up paired with Chino. I love that synergy. That's what you want to see, is just synergy like that between those two, allowing Pain to get all those picks, and instantly Nonfiction is on the first checkpoint, counting it down. This is a great position for them to be in.
Absolutely. And Popgun here on tower, he's about to start throwing as many shots as he can top left of tower and make it just completely not safe for the people trying to defend. Those missiles push him into a corner, though, which is a fantastic opportunity for Bai. If Bai can get in here and get some of these picks, this push might be over.
I loved Bai's. They were just so many bombs being thrown at tower. They're paired with the rain. Really good chip damage from them. I love that they were kind of sitting back and just letting the other team having to back away from tower. But unfortunately, there's essentially 3 members down right now of Bai, and they are not able to get to the tower. So Nonfiction is past the second checkpoint and continuing to get points.
Yeah. So with this suction rush coming out, this tower is going to be extremely hard to touch. If we put these suctions in front of tower where people need to run, this game probably just ends. This final checkpoint, Nonfiction are making it look like an absolute cakewalk, that even dealing with the top right effectively. They back off a little, they take a breath, they take some space, but I think as soon as we see jumps here from Nonfiction, this push is going to continue.
I know, you can see that they're backed up in the street area and just kind of, they were waiting for jumps to get in and just holding that position, but finally Bai was able to get 3 members down of Nonfiction, so Bai able to have their chance to finally be able to push into mid. Crimson using that inkjet a little bit early, maybe trying to get some space with that, and oh, Popgun just did the Hydra thing that we love so much, just backed up and shot and was able to get a pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else to notice about Bai's push that I think they did really well is they held on to specials. Like, this K-Shot has been holding on to missiles because as soon as they see Popgun on the low ground, they know I don't have to use missiles to deal with that. I can just do my normal K-Shot plan and I'll be fine. So Bai using some really good special management here as they try to grind a push out.
Yeah, unfortunately with them having 1 member go down, oh my goodness, 3 members go down now of Bai. They were not able to get a push going past that 77-point marker. So with Smash right now just painting around, trying to get missiles, I'm sure. You know, it's kind of just, we have about 2 minutes left of this match. It's going to be up to Bai to really figure out what strategy they want to do here to get Nonfiction off of this tower and get into mid.
Yeah, so Bai electing to use specials to stop this push. Crimson gets a fantastic double kill, and then 3 go down for the side of Nonfiction. If we can snowball this push, the thing that Bai's composition wants to do, which is push forward, get turf, and get into really bad or really good positions for themselves, and just play overall greedily, then this can be a fantastic push for Bai. But this Hydra is showing exactly why it's a menace. Playing that high ground and absolutely stopping tower.
Oh my gosh, Pain, I didn't even notice that Pain flanking through mid, able to go to the tower and get a pick on Nox, I believe that was. So even though Nox went down, Nox is right here, able to jump back into tower and continue to ride the tower. We see specials coming out from Bai as they are getting to that second checkpoint. So this is what they needed. Right now it's 3-3 on the board. Nido is now riding the tower, trying to get past the second checkpoint, but unfortunately 3 members of Bai do go down. It's just Nox in mid here.
Yeah, we haven't been able to keep Popgun out of our mouth this set, but the rest of nonfiction showing there, we don't even need Popgun. Popgun is just the cherry on top with a fantastic defense, and now Bai is back on the back foot.
Yeah, Bai having to push back into their street. You could see the mid is getting painted pretty bluish green, whatever this color is right now. And I love that we're seeing constant flanks from Smash and Pain. Even Chino a little bit, just flanking in the attics a bit. And I love that. That's just really, something if you're the other team, you really have to watch out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really strange to talk about nonfiction doing, considering when we look at the weapons, you think Bai would be the people doing that. Mm-hmm. They would be the ones flanking constantly and putting that pressure on the defense of multiple angles of attack. And now we see this push coming out here, but again, 3 missiles, like, how are we going to deal with this high ground?
Yeah, Nido doing everything they can to ride the tower. Smash, though, jumping on the tower. Now it's Nox on the tower trying to do everything they can. We saw Nox and Jade and Nido all trying to juggle that. Unfortunately, though, Nonfiction was able to surround the tower, get those picks, and just hop on. So game 4 will be going to Nonfiction. Nonfiction winning the set 3-1.
Yeah, and that was still a really good game. That set was a perfect demonstration on why, if you have short range, you need to have an answer for longer range and high ground. Mm-hmm. And Bai didn't look like they had an answer. Mm-hmm. It felt like it was Nonfiction's game all of the time.
Yeah.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
It really is. I mean, there were constantly flanks coming in from Nonfiction. They were constantly painting, and that's really important. And then like Popgun too on the Hydra I felt like I really liked how Popgun was not in one position all the time. You could see him switching to the top right or to the snipe or around mid, and I really like that because that really kind of makes the other team wonder, okay, where is this Hydra gonna be?
Yeah, like typically when you see a Hydra splatling, it's thought of as immobile, but Popgun is demonstrating how even an immobile weapon can do amazing when it just pops up in different angles again and again and again and again, because we saw that Popgun had like 3 to 5 different angles that he used on both offense and defense, but he rotated them constantly, so he was trying to stay ahead of the game, and that's exactly what you have to do when you're playing a slower weapon like Hydra, E-Leader, or even Charger to some extent.
Mm-hmm. I know, I was thinking that too, that when Popgun was up in that top right area, it reminded me a lot of when E-Leaders sit in that area too, and it's just the range that a Hydra or an E-Leader has in that top right area. Like, what do? How do you have to figure out, that's something really specific. If they're just constantly killing the tower rider, you really have to figure out how to counter that, and it can be really, really deadly to be against.
Yeah, like Splatoon is a game of questions and answers, and the defending team is asking the question, and the attacking team or the offending team needs to provide an answer, and if they don't provide an answer, then the defending team wins. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's not thought about a lot of the time, especially when you're building compositions. And it was a case of Nonfiction asked a question, Bai didn't have an answer,